industry disruption is something that received a lot of interest lately, and it's because digital technology has enabled the unlocking of a lot of value by changing how things are done so they can be done much more effectively, and changing also the things that can be done. We can do things that we couldn't do before. Especially important there is the internet rather than the digital format itself, perhaps. Well, so there's a lot of interest around industry disruption. But to really understand it, you have to start by understanding value and what value is. And there is a key definition here, and it relies on the European standard definition of value from also the Lindstedt-Berenius value model book. So it's the ratio between the satisfaction of customer needs and the use of customer resources. So basically there's two ways to increase value: satisfy more needs or satisfy needs to a higher degree, or make sure that your product or service uses less of the customer resources. It could be time, it could be money, it could be efforts. And then we have 3 levels on the numerator. We can solve problems or remove pains. We can create gains by completing jobs that the customer needs to be done. Jobs to be done is a popular way of phrasing it. Other way is to say we create the results that they require or desire. Or we can work on the more psychological level with improved feeling and so on. And here we have social needs. And that gives you 6 levers to work on to crank out more value and beat the competitors, for example, or doing something that is a new generation of your own products also. So there are different ways to innovate when you try to create more value. And one way that is relevant for looking at industry disruption is value innovation. And the framework mostly used here is the Blue Ocean strategy. And Blue Ocean strategy takes a look at what is today, map it out, look at what customers value here, what are the parameters they use when they try to choose when buying something of this category. And that's called the key purchasing criteria. And how do we rate on these criteria? And the idea is that there are some competitors, some rivals, they're doing the same thing, satisfying the same needs with the same functions and applying the same solutions to deliver those functions. And they compete head to head, and they have the similar shape on their value curve. And increasing performance on one of these parameters also costs more money, usually. And we want to break the curve. So we want to create something that has a completely different curve. And we do that by asking, why is some people not buying this product? Why is some people not going to the circus, as this example is asking? And then it proposes the case of Cirque du Soleil as a radically different experience that actually costs much more but sells to another group, and it makes a lot more money because they removed a lot of the expensive elements from the business model. So this is value innovation. You take a curve but you generate a new one. You have 4 actions: eliminate stuff that is costly and not so highly valued by your target customers, increase or add, create things that they value, preferably if they are not also so costly, then you can add a lot. And then you reduce things that are less critical, but still needs maybe to be there. And with that, you increased the value for the customer, but you decreased your cost. It becomes a really nice mix. And you created something because you targeted non-customers that nobody else is doing. There is no value proposition like this. You will have an uncontested market space, free from competitors. And this is the blue ocean. While the red ocean, where the others are stuck, they're fighting, trying to beat each other, perform a little better, investing and trying to steal each other's customers. And that's like an ocean full of blood from the sharks fighting. That's why it's called the red ocean. And the objective is really to create a paradigm shift. So instead of being on the same cost utility curve here, yeah, so you have in many industries a high-end, high-cost, high-utility group and a low-end, low-cost and less utility group, and some on the middle here you can also find profitable positions. But you break that and you say, we have high utility and low cost. So try to work on two fronts at the same time and move the whole curve. Try to break it and change the rules. Get in another key parameter for competing, let's say, and offer something that is quite different than the offers that are competing head to head. If you can do this, you will be creating a new value proposition. You will be entering a space that you can own for yourself for some time. And we can look at this from the industry development perspective. And industry development follows some predictable patterns. Specific industries and specific technologies might follow it like roughly or only pieces of the way, but overall it seems to follow a principle of an S-curve. And it starts something like this. We have this new thing, an unbundled value proposition. It's always unbundled in the beginning. We offer one thing, one function, and maybe then we add some more complementary functions. But it's really like when PayPal went into to provide payment functions. It was just person-to-person payment, competing with the banks, but with one thing. Banks had a bundled value proposition. PayPal had an unbundled one. And first, the innovators are going to accept this. They like things that are new. They will be trying it. They might even give you feedback and suggest that some bugs could be fixed, etc. And it starts to incrementally improve. And then, as you get more and more customers, you move up on this adoption curve, which is the left curve. It also represents the volume. It also represents the technology's performance, because over time there is also more R&D spending. So performance goes up also in an S-curve. We'll leave that a little bit aside for now and focus on the business domain following the same shape. So we get some innovators, but then we might get also some early adopters or visionaries. These are interested in the new technology because it gives them an advantage. So they'll be willing to adopt, they will be willing to learn a bit, they will be willing to change what they are doing a little bit if there are companies, just because they see that doing it with your service, doing it with PayPal actually gives them a benefit. If it's a company, it might be that it helps them compete somewhat more successfully. And also new firms are attracted here because there are some sales happening, there's some role modeling. Let's say if an entrepreneurial company starts something and has success, other people think, all right, we could also do that. We can also supply a payment service. Okay. And with that, we start to have a little bit of a bundling of functions. And we start to see the emergence of a solution that becomes the dominant solution, the dominant design. Before that point, there will be lots of different ways to do things that the new unbundled entrants provide, but some things seem to work well. And that is linked to this transition from early adopters to early majority. Okay, so we're still in the blue ocean, and remembering the definition of value, the satisfaction of customer needs, that's what's dominating now. We try to satisfy needs better and more needs. Maybe we add a little bit of functions to get those complementary needs, like if we provide a new service, a new software, maybe we offer also a little bit of training or backup systems or something like that. And we really need to get that together to a whole package. Because going to the early majority, we have to cross what's called a chasm. It's really difficult to get from early adopters to early majority, especially in the business-to-business domain, if you have an innovative product that is requiring them to learn and change what they do. They don't want to do that. It costs them a lot to change. And if they can, they will stick with the old ways. So to make it easy, you bundle all the functions they need and put together maybe a few solutions, and that will be something that you can offer at least one firm in the early majority segment. And you have that, and then you can start to sell to other firms here, other firms that are a bit more conservative, other customers that are a bit more conservative than these early, more visionary, more tech-interested groups. If you can cross the chasm, you will be in the part where there is a really strong growth, real takeoff here, a hockey stick. And that will mean that you will be enjoying the blue ocean growth phase. But now there will be one way to do things that everybody expects, a dominant design. And that would be easier for other firms to come in and compete. So that means that while there is a lot of growth, and we can still grow by getting more customers from the market, we will also attract more firms. And at some point, we will be crossing over to the late majority. They will change when they have to. But the early majority had changed. They were persuaded that this was a better system, a better way to do things. And then the late majority will be at a disadvantage, and at some point it might have to change. But then you will sort of run out of new customers. It'll be like less and less customers to target, and you start to compete more and more head-to-head with the other firms doing the same things, your rivals. That means that you're crossing over to a more of a red ocean situation, where other things are needed. You start to compete by providing a value proposition that they compare directly with your rivals, and you grow mostly by taking customers from the other companies. It's not so much room left to grow by taking new customers, because most customers already started to buy and use the new product or service. We are fighting against each other, and what happens is actually that we start to compete on things like quality, service, brand, and price, and we start to bundle our solution with other solutions to lock the customer in, make it more expensive to shift to another company. We try to decrease churn and increase switching costs. And these are all on the denominator of the value equation, because they have to do with the effort, the time, and the cost, the money spent by customers. We try to compete by making it a little bit more convenient, and the total costs being slightly smaller, getting higher volumes, and optimizing our processes. So the shift is from value and utility towards convenience and price pressure. So then it starts to flatten out. There's not much more customers to get. And the same with the technology itself. It follows a similar shape of the curve. It might not correspond exactly in time, but we reach some constraints of a technology. And what has happened is that we are in this situation where we have a bundled value proposition and everybody is very similar. Maybe someone comes in with a new value proposition, maybe a new technology. It doesn't perform at the same high level as the previous one, perhaps, but it might be that some customers have so much service and they have so much quality and so much performance that they don't need it all. And if the new proposition has, for example, order of magnitude better price, or, it could be higher value, they might be willing to shift. There might be some unserved customers, non-customers, seeing this, and they might be interested. It's probably, again, going to be an unbundled value proposition, because that's what new entrants come with. And if sufficient amount of overserved customers switch, we will have a disruption. It will take the customers that were in these red ocean banks here, for example. They bundle now insurance, pension saving, advisory service, and house loans, and of course, person-to-person payment. Well, something comes in here. PayPal with a credit function. Like you can borrow for buying an apartment. That might be what I need. I might need to do person-to-person payment. I already have PayPal for that. And then I need a loan to have somewhere to live. And all the rest of all the other bundled things are not great value for me. So I might move over and choose this new entrant. And it might come with a new technology, leveraging some new way of doing things. Maybe it's based on a blockchain or something like that. But it might not. But even if it's a new technology always have to come with a new business model to have a disruptive effect. Otherwise, it's the same thing done, just slightly lower costs. Because that's the fundamental thing that makes the old assets that are applied to deliver this huge bundle of all sorts of things less valuable. Actually, they just add costs if people realize they need only a little bit that can be done more easily with the better technology. So then we got the whole circle and started again with a new curve in the blue ocean kind of setting. Now it's also interesting to look at the timing. When should we get into this market? And there's been a lot of research on this, but it seems that it's not so good to be the first here often doing the experiments, and there's a lot of failure before an S-curve starts. So maybe somewhere from the dominant design starting to materialize until it peaked. And we can see here the number of firms goes up. After the dominant design is created, it goes up and then peaks and then goes down, because here we start to grow by also acquiring each other and have non-organic growth, and some are also put out of the market because they're not able to compete as fiercely as the others. So that would mean that somewhere after or just before the dominant design comes in and before we go into the late majority and start to take each other's customers, that's a good opportunity to go into a new business area. But you can succeed in any of these, of course, but you have to know what you're doing, and the chances of success might be the best when there's a lot of growth, but you don't have to fight for the customers. There's customers for everybody.